Hey everyone, it's Jeremy Osterberger with BIC Magazine, and we're here at the ECC Extra in Austin, Texas. I'm with my friend and the legend, Brandon Mabile. Brandon, thank you so much for hanging out today, buddy.
Thank you, Jeremy. Always great to be with BIC.
Always. So, of course, Brandon, you're with Performance Contractors. You also hold a role in ABC at the national level. Tell everybody what you do for ABC.
So I represent the South Central region of ABC nationally as the vice chair on the executive committee.
Awesome. So here at ECC, Brandon, much of the discussion has been around the tight labor market. Can you just kind of give us a quick overview? What are some of the major concerns from industrial contractors here as we start the year in 2024?
You know, Jeremy, one of the big concerns is we've got competition now that we didn't used to have in new markets outside of what was traditionally industrial. So heavy manufacturing, what the government's calling mission critical, like pharmaceutical, data centers, and they're really pulling a lot of the same labor that we're pulling. So not only do we have an influx of projects in our traditional markets, but there's a lot of big projects in those non-traditional markets. So it's really causing even a greater drive on construction labor. So we think that the worst has probably happened. We're kind of not at a peak, but we're slowly kind of going towards a peak. So we think craft wages will probably go up a little bit over the next couple of years. Maybe not as fast as everybody thinks it is, but it's also going to depend on each company's access to labor.
That's interesting because I've heard everything from 15% growth year over year to, like you were saying, kind of nominal growth, minimal growth, right? So let's get into it then, Brandon. All right, so then the name of the game is attracting talent and then retaining talent. There's numbers out there that suggest 1.2 million people leave the construction industry every year. Most of that's due to what? Inconsistent pay. Talk about a little bit about attracting talent and retaining talent.
So I'll start with retention, Jeremy, and where we've had the biggest success is exactly what you're talking about with that inconsistent pay. You've got to keep your people working. You've got to give them opportunities. And so we coordinated performance throughout the country on when jobs are coming down, when jobs are starting, where we can move people to make sure that they know, hey, this job's going to end in 3 weeks, and when it ends, this is your next opportunity. So keep them working, keep the steady income, and that's the biggest key to retention. I think the other big key to retention and attraction is you have to retain your supervision to attract craft. Craft follows the supervision. But things that we're doing as a company and that a lot in the industry are doing, we're working with military bases, we're working with high schools, community colleges, junior colleges, to really continue to keep that pipeline open, to show people careers in construction. And so that's been really successful for us, but we're heavily invested in it to get there. And I feel like that's why maybe we're not seeing as much of the craft crunch as you're hearing about from some others.
Makes sense. So Brandon, you and I have done some videos and we've been a part of some panels on the IRA and people trying to navigate the apprenticeship requirements as well as the prevailing wage. Can you give us an update on where we're at with that? What's happened recently as it relates to the IRA?
So Jeremy, back in August, we had a proposed rulemaking issued from the Department of Treasury, and what's really unprecedented is the Department of Treasury has said this proposed rulemaking serves as our current guidance for the IRA. So take the proposed rule and whatever's in there, that's what you should do for now. That proposed rule will be finalized soon, within the next, anywhere from tomorrow to 5 months from now. And then we will really have the final guidance from Treasury on what to do going forward. So it's still a little up in the air, but the proposed rulemaking is pretty straightforward. It answered a lot of questions we have, and so you have somewhere to start.
And of course, ABC is going to be pivotal in getting that communication out to the the contractors.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. We'll look forward to hear more on that, Brandon, as we go. And my last question, Brandon, is just broadly, what are the legislative priorities for ABC and really just for industry as a whole? You have such a great pulse on it from the Gulf Coast up to the national level.
So Jeremy, as we're talking, it's February 1st. Last night, the House passed a tax cut. It's going to have some trouble in the Senate, but there are several ABC priorities in that tax cut bill. One is a better research and development credit for American companies. There's some great tax incentives for small and medium-sized businesses in that, and so that's a big one right now. One of our biggest priorities is actually a regulatory priority, not a legislative priority, and that is the DOL and the Biden administration have come out with new rules for prevailing wage. They've rolled back about 70 years of what prevailing wage had been, and so actually the AGC has filed a lawsuit in Lafayette against the new changes. We expect that lawsuit is probably going to be successful. ABC is also looking at some potential lawsuits in some other aspects of the new prevailing wage. And so it's really changed the way that prevailing wages are determined to much more heavily favor unions. They already kind of disproportionately favored unions, and this just makes it a landslide in favor of the unions. So even in counties where there's basically no union whatsoever, in most cases the union wage is going to prevail now, and it makes it really hard on open shop and merit shop contractors. So that's a huge priority, is getting that reverted back to what it was.
Brandon, for folks that don't know about Performance Contractors, give us the 30-second elevator on what you guys perform.
Performance Contractors, we're a heavy industrial general contractor, primarily in the petrochem, refining, semiconductor, heavy manufacturing spaces. We have a little over 9,000 employees, licensed to do business in 35 states, and we're really full service from underground piping on up to completion and commissioning of a project.
Brandon, if somebody wants to find out about you, how do they find you?
Go to www.performance-contractors.com.
Brandon, we always enjoy our time together. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Jeremy.
See you, man.